Welcome to episode 14 of the Just a Moment Ago podcast. Today I do have JJ back with me. How's it going today, JJ?
Pretty good, man.
Yeah, you feeling all right today?
Yeah, I did something that I'm pretty proud that it finally got done.
Yeah,
Yeah,
just
I'm
trying to stay moving forward.
100%, man.
Good, that's good, man. So we're back here today to discuss our Psychedelics Part 2. You know, the first round we talked a lot about what they are, how kind of side effects, different things about them. But today we're actually going to discuss experiences that we've both personally had with them.
Yep, good medicinal stories and probably.
Macro and micro dosing stories, I think.
Yep. Well, you can also get really
Right.
good medical benefits of macro dosing too, though. You can't forget that.
Oh, of course. There's all kinds of things both ways, but this is just to get down to the actual, I don't think a lot of people fully understand the visuals, like hallucinations and the things you actually will see while you're on stuff like that. And that's
be different for everybody.
right. And that's one reason why I say I think everybody should experience it one time, because you're not going to experience it anything else like it.
Absolutely.
Right.
Yep, you definitely hit that right on the head.
So, do you want to start with a story, or do you want me to start with a story, or how do you?
Actually, I do want to hear a story from you, man.
Yeah, I'm actually gonna start with the very first time that I ever was introduced to anything, which was mescaline. So I was actually 17, and I never thought about, any hallucinogens, and I was hanging out with one of my friends that I hung out with daily for quite a while at that time, and I called him up one day, and he said somebody had mescaline and they were going to go each take one and hallucinate, and I was just like, cool, maybe I could come with, not even thinking anything too much of it, what it really was. It came to that he called me back like 10 minutes later, and he's like, yeah, there's enough, you can come with for sure. And what the plan was there was like 8 of us. We were going to drive out to this one guy's land that was with us, and we were all going to just walk out in the woods and take it and then hallucinate out in his woods. He had a big, bunch of acres.
Nice.
So we get out
That's
there.
the best way, in my opinion, to do it.
Well, it didn't work.
Oh, yeah. Trial and error.
It went.
And I should fix that. I meant, for me, it would have been mushrooms.
So we get out to the woods, and everybody's kind of there and takes it, and we start walking into the woods, and it's about a half an hour in, and people start realizing that the woods might not be the best place for a group of people to be on mescaline, because mescaline is strong. So all of a sudden, everybody wants to race back to the houses in town. So now everybody's running out of the woods. It's starting to kick in just a little bit to where everybody's starting to get that laughing thing, where everybody's running and laughing, just running and laughing, running and laughing. You can't stop laughing. You're just running. Everybody gets to the cars. This driveway is probably like 400 yards long, and we had to back down it to get back out. You can only pull in and out. It's weeds on both sides, and we got cars. You're not turning around these thick, deep weeds. So we all back out, we make it out, and slowly get back into town to my buddy's house. And 2 other people decide to leave, and we're just like, where are you going to go? We're going to go. They left. Seeing them again the next day. Whatever happened with their trip, I have no idea.
It's like you don't really think about doing it. You just, I'm gonna do it.
Right. But so what happened is it eventually came to where we started watching The Wall, like a bunch of teenagers would do.
Of course.
So we started that, but we got maybe a half hour into that and decided that wasn't going to work either. So a few other people left, and it's weird when people leave when you're doing hallucinogens. And the thing about it is, it was my first time, so I'm not thinking about people leaving is really too big a deal. It's weird, but it's like, they'll be fine. They'll figure it out.
You were 17.
Knowing what I know now, I think that's really not a good idea to leave. But then I just didn't know.
Like, leave with their cars. Like,
Right. They want
yeah.
a person that's hallucinating's driving and then a passenger, you know. Like, it's just, it seems like a bad idea now that you look back on it.
Yeah. Well, you know, and that brings up a really good point that in addiction, you know, we dwell on the past so much. You know what I mean? It's good though. Like nothing happened though to them. So
No.
It's that whole dwelling on the past. I just had to bring that point up.
So, but it ended up to where it was just me and my one friend left at the house by the time we were peaking, which is weird. Because everybody kind of, I think, started realizing everybody just wanted to be home at their own places, kind of. Because we were all young. People just, I don't think everybody was ready for what was coming. Because it's strong. Like, it's strong.
I've personally never done mescaline.
When it started peaking in that day, like, the walls started melting off of the ceilings and closing down on the floor. The carpet is like turning into steps, going like this into steps. You're just laughing and laughing. The neighbors actually came over and are like, "You guys good? There's a lot of laughing in here." And we're just like, "We're good," you know, because the neighbors actually smoked, so they weren't like getting all upset about something going on. They just figured we were probably getting high. Kids that can't handle their smoke, you know, but it's actually something quite different.
Dude, mescaline is the only thing I can think of when you say mescaline. Yeah, I know, like you said in the first episode of this, you literally like went from the strongest kind and worked your way down. Like that is like I've never met anybody that. I mean that's.
It's just how I was
the best
introduced.
Way to explain that, like you start with like 101 proof like shots your first time, and then you work your way down, you know, to beer, to like near beer.
Yeah. It's just how it ended up being.
I mean, people do that is, you know, but that's what it brings up a lot of good stories though, man.
Right, but yeah, so what?
The only thing I can think of is how intense mescaline is the first like 15 minutes of Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas. They were on mescaline, and you know, when you're driving, and you know that's a true story too. When you're driving in the middle of the desert with a convertible and you're on mescaline, and you remember the scene, dude. He had what was it, fly swatter?
I think so. I can't remember
yeah,
fully. I'm bad at remembering movies, man. I'm bad at remembering movies.
Well, no, like that mescaline is so intense that he's literally driving. You know, they're going pretty fast in the middle of the desert in a convertible, and he's got a fly swatter, thinking that there's bats everywhere.
Right.
And that is a true story. So, because I've never personally done it, but I do know it's on a scale of 1 to 10. It's probably like a 7 or an 8.
It is, yeah. But as far as that, as it peaked and the walls melted, and that day me and him stayed in that day. We stayed there. We didn't go anywhere else. I went outside for a little bit, but when I walked outside, it looked like there was hundreds of flash bulbs going off like I was in the middle of a stadium. And I couldn't handle it.
Yeah,
I couldn't be outside. It was just flashbulbs all around. So I had to go back inside within 2 minutes. It's just too much going on to be outside when you're the only one too. Your head is just not in the right place to even run into somebody that's not.
Do you know how much you took?
It was all I know is it was just in a little gel cap, like a little capsule, and it just had a tiny little bit in the bottom of it. It's such a small amount. It's absurd.
No, that's why I brought this up. Keep that in mind, how potent that is. I know
it's
exactly
extreme.
What you're talking about. It's like a little dot.
Mm-hmm. My first time was very euphoric. It was very enjoyable. A lot of laughs, a lot of good times.
Did you cry?
No, the visuals were, they were all pretty much, they were strong but normal, like a lot of things like melting, step type of things, a lot of stuff like that. It was my second time that things really got out of control, but we'll get to that later. What do you got for your
Okay, well, I'll tell you, this is one of the most special experiences I ever had. I was microdosing at the time, and macrodosing. You know, like on the weekends. This day, I had the day off. I remember, it was when I was working at when I was a CNA. I had the day off, and one of my mother's, like, she's basically like an aunt to me. They've worked together for 15, 20 years. She had been going through some like serious like health issues, and on top of that like family like Christ, you know, just something I can't remember exactly, but this is why it's I ended up that day I took probably about a gram to 2 grams at like right before noon of albino pea envy, you know,
Mm.
which is like the most like elite psychedelic.
Psychedelic fungus.
Yes, like I was very fortunate to have that,
Right.
but I waited about 15 minutes before I even left. Sure enough, I'm walking, and it's at lunchtime. You know, my mother's friend, and right at the footbridge, right as I'm like just about to like peak. I mean, I'm seeing like colors I've never seen before. You name it, man.
Mm.
I mean, I'm not even kidding. You know which footbridge I'm talking about, right?
I think so.
Right down the street from the one we always meet at.
Yeah. Oh yeah, yeah.
Yeah. It couldn't have been more perfect, man. We were literally coming onto the bridge at the exact same time. My mom's friend, and just the experience was so like amazing. The fact that it was like every step I was taking, I could literally just feel exactly like her pain. And I know anybody who hasn't like done psychedelics or anything like that, they just they would think, okay, this is weird, but
Mm-hmm.
this is why I think I can't wait till the day that they are.
Yeah, there's a dreamlike state that's very hard to explain,
But
and that's
it's
like
you can still control yourself though.
right.
I could just feel like every step. We were like literally like at the same pace and everything. And right when we got up to each other, you know, she just came up like, you know, I hugged her and I told her like everything, you know, like sorry for everything that's going on. And we talked for a long, well, till like for about half hour, 45 minutes. And it was really like I had just started microdosing like a month or two prior to that, and that was the first time I had like macrodosed. And just from doing that, I know that it is so it just brings out it releases trauma, and it makes people empathetic,
Right.
which I think the world right now, even if they're not a bad person or you know what I mean, we are all so busy. We all are under so much stress. It's just insane. Like
Yeah.
you know, hurry up, 10-minute break. You know, eat a 10-minute lunch. You know,
It's true. It's very true.
and you know people are slamming coffees, Red Bulls. You know, we live in such a fast-paced society where what that experience like that, it just shows that we all need that release. Like we hold so much in every day. It is like as you can see, like I'm a better person today from the medicinal values of everything.
Of course.
I just that is a really emotional, like, special day because she had been like really depressed. Like a lot of people were worried about her, and she is like an aunt to me.
Right.
She, I guess I like later on. I talked to my mom like later that week, and she said, "Your son is such a sweetheart. Like
Hmm.
I needed that and everything. You know what? It was meant to be, and I give all the credit to the psychedelic medicinal value of it because look at how like serious that is. You know what I mean? Like what are
Yeah.
the chances? Like I take it, I wait like 15 minutes because I wanted to go for a walk.
Right.
And look what happened. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. You do feel, even macrodosing or microdosing, it's weird how you can feel things much more intimately, for lack of a better word. Like it just feels so, I don't know how to say it without just using that. Like you can feel other people's pain and stuff too, and other people's emotions, and it feels a lot more real to you.
And
like, that's why I'm saying it like that.
That's yeah, that is perfect. Also, though, you fight your own. It makes you fight your own inner.
Oh, for sure.
And that's why a lot of people are scared to do it. You know, people that even know the whole medicinal thing.
I think a lot of it's legality too, though.
Legality. Oh, yeah. I'm not saying. I'm saying, like, if somebody does know and has had experiences, it's like, just if you were to bite the bullet and just have like an experience overnight. Like I said, I actually have a childhood friend that he suffered from depression since I've known him.
Right.
He never really knew anything about mushrooms or psychedelics or anything. He's tried everything. Dude, they even did electroshock therapy on this friend of mine. Yeah.
It's crazy.
They're actually bringing that back.
Oh?
Yep. It's getting very
common?
Yeah.
Really? Do you know much about it, or?
Well, personally, you know my opinion on Western medicine.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't think putting electric shock in your brain is a very good idea. Even if it maybe has like benefits, it sounds like it could have some long-term serious effect.
Yeah.
And you know, that used to be such a regular thing. It used to be as regular as therapy, like in the 1920s and 30s.
Right.
And that's why it's very strange that it did make a comeback.
But a lot of things do, though. Even weird stuff sometimes does. It's just...
Well, this is what they do different, though. They sedate you. They put you under and then do it.
Oh, before you were just alert and, like, right there for it all?
It looks like torture. What they had to go through in the 20s and 30s.
Yeah, but even a lot of medical procedures were kind of torture back then.
That actually brings up this is a great explanation of how the medical industry like has changed. My great grandmother on my mom's side.
Right.
Obviously, I never met her. My grandma has a picture of her, which is really special. She was severely burned in a house fire. Like, we're talking 3rd-degree burns. And, you know, in the late 1800s, do you know what the method was for treating severe burn?
Do I wanna?
Dude, they would take hot lamp and put it up to your skin.
Yeah.
Do you see, like...
I'm not... Why did that do? Hot lamps?
Yeah, and that's why when you brought up, like, how, you know...
That sounds horrible. What?
I know. That's why I had to say that, because that is the Western medicine.
Dude.
Well, look at the Civil War.
Yeah.
They would use the same saw. They went, you know, it's all trial and error, but...
Right.
That I had to say that because that's what my great-grandmother went through.
Mm-hmm.
That just shows right there, like, how that's why it's so surprising that something that was electroshock therapy is making a huge comeback.
Right.
And it's like, ugh, dude, if you look at those videos.
But I guess if they're sedating and it's not as painful, and if it does work, but I mean, if it doesn't work, then we should not be messing with it. Like, there's no data that shows it worked at all. Because back then, they're just subjecting people to the pain of it, too.
I cannot imagine being, they had to put a whole huge rubber thing in your mouth so you don't bite your tongue.
Oh, my God.
See, this brings up a valid point, man. Like, all that is okay, but taking a natural, mushroom, whatever...
Right, and well, I was just thinking too, like, one thing though is it's super important though in the beginning that you are doing things with respectful people that are not gonna mess around and do silly things or act foolish or purposely cause problems when you're using, a psychedelic like mushrooms or mescaline or LSD. Like, I want to get to my next story, and you'll fully understand why I'm saying what I'm saying.
Right. And
so,
I couldn't agree more with that.
second time that I used mescaline was actually the second time I'd ever used hallucinogens, and it got very out of control. And it's only because the reason I'm doing this is because the first time I took mescaline, which is extremely strong, and I had an extremely euphoric, laughable, very fun time. The second time, it was not that. And the second time is when I realized things had to be different, and it changed kind of how I did things for a while. Because I realized that you can't do things just around anybody. You can't do stuff around people you don't trust.
No.
Basically what happened is we're at a little house party, and we're turning into a tripping party, a hallucinogenic party, right? So there's 11 people that are going to do it, and nobody that's going to not at this point. And the group of people is not necessarily a group of people that should do anything together, really. But
you all knew each other, though?
We all knew each other, yeah. We all were aware of who each other are. And here's the thing, though. A lot of the personalities were more on the negative side. Okay. There wasn't a lot of positive personalities in the room. But me coming off of my first time being so euphoric and fun, I'm not thinking how south this is going to go. So everybody's, we take it, which this night I took 2 capsules, not just one. My other friend that took 2, a couple other people took 2, and a few others just took 1. So now you have some of us that are basically on an extreme dose of mescaline. 2 was far too much that night. So it starts off, everything's fine. I wander outside, I sit outside, I had a new car at the time. I watched my car inflate back up, and then back out into the road, and then float down the river. So that's So now my car floated down the river, but it was just the road in front. And then I went inside, I was like, my car's gone. So I went to the basement. And he had set up the basement specifically for this. The ceiling got black tarps, and then there's paint splattered all over the black tarp. Then he's got black lights all across the bottom of the floor, a strobe light in the corner that's got different color lights going. Dude. I'm in the basement trying to gather myself because it's starting to get out of, my head is just really
well, your car's jet ski.
I'm not worrying about that at the time because in my head I'm like, you're in a dream state, it'll come back, it's not a big deal. But I can tell things are starting to get out of control because my one friend is off to the side and he's starting to yell something, and someone's like, calm down, and they started hugging him like relax, and I was like, oh geez. It's just, and pretty soon
that vibe right there,
right,
yep,
yeah,
I know exactly what you mean.
So a couple people go upstairs, I'm downstairs, and I can hear that it's starting to be kind of chaotic upstairs, and I'm just like, which direction should I go? I remember making a phone call, and I remember the person just being like, dude, you're on a hallucinogen, just go do your thing and call me. It was something like that.
Okay.
So I hung up the phone.
Call me in the morning, yeah.
I hang up the phone, and my friend runs down the stairs, and he stops in front of the strobe light, and the strobe light's flashing red at this time, and he's like, ha 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 ha, doing this thing, and he turns into the devil. He's morphing into this evil thing in front of me, and skeletons start coming out the wall behind him. And now I'm freaking out. I'm thinking I'm in the basement with the devil. And I started chasing him. And he got halfway up the stairs, and he's like, David, stop. And I was like, where'd the devil go? And I just stopped, dude. I was like,
no, this is...
Because I seen it in the strobe light. But as we got out and up, and he said my name, it pulled me back to out of that kind of dream state. And, and then as we went upstairs, we started talking, whatever, and someone was freaking out in the other room, and they were trying to calm them down. Oh, and then 2 people came over that weren't tripping. They weren't using anything. And they wanted to cause chaos within the whole thing. So now a couple more people are back in the basement, and I see someone light firecrack, and the fuse is lit down in the base. Boom, 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 boom. Just cracker after cracker going on. People screaming in the basement. Just chaos running up out of the basement. And I'm just like, what is going on here? We are tripping like crazy. People are freaking out, dude. I gotta this night got out of control,
story,
dude.
Bro. You never, this is
after all this happened, I ended up in the bathroom. I had glass in my hand. So I'm trying to like get the glass out of my hand, but you can't even see your hand properly. Like it's turning into 8 different things.
You might not have even had the glass in your hand.
It was some in my hand, you know, there was little shards and stuff. And like, dude, this was as everybody was peaking when everything kind of got really out of control, you know, and I'm only one person. I can't see everything that's going on. I can just hear.
Whose house was this?
Absolutely. One of my good friends that I grew up with.
God, I feel bad for whoever house this was.
So I can just hear a lot of chaos and things going on. But I remember at one point, me and 2 other people left. We're like, we gotta leave and go somewhere. We ended up in a cemetery, just sitting in the back of a cemetery. And we sat there for like 4 hours, sat there just waiting for it to end, you know?
You know, it's a relaxing place to go when you've
right.
already seen the devil.
And as we were actually ending as the sun was coming. We were coming back to normal as that morning sunrise was coming. And
that actually doesn't surprise me.
We kind of looked at each other and we're like, morning, or are we seeing the morning, man? I think we're good now, you know? It's over. That was by far the craziest night ever. Let's collect ourselves and see what the heck actually happened, you know. But after that night, it changed how I see things. I did not do anything like that with people. Not mescaline, LSD with people that I wasn't okay with.
I've known you like 5-6 years now. You had never told me that story. That's a perfect example. Wow.
Yeah.
It's like, just when I thought like, oh, dude, I cannot imagine that. It just kept escalating.
It was a weird day, but this is where I think.
Do you feel better though today that you had that experience?
Yeah, because I know the power.
No, I mean like.
What do you?
Of course that, but like medicinally. How do you feel about like people today? Like,
dude, ever since that night, I've known that people, like, I just know people are not always, they're not there to make things better usually. A lot of people are just there to stir the pot.
It's actually, I couldn't agree with that more.
And that's a perfect example. Like, they weren't there to begin with, but they came and brought firecrackers to a hallucination party.
Like, I've never met. I don't know who did that.
I'm not saying names.
It was years ago. I know you're not.
We're in a small world. If I say first names, people will know exactly who I'm talking about.
I promise you, dude. If somebody would have did that to me, that would have been their last.
See, I wasn't in the basement. But I seen it get thrown, but I wasn't in the basement. I had already came up in my own.
Thinking about that is just, wow. I mean,
imagine being at a party like that with 5 people you trust and 8 people that could do anything at any time. That's basically.
And then 2 sober people that came over.
Well, that's what I'm actually saying. There was 11 plus the 2. So we had 13 total at one point. Like,
whoever those 2 people are, man.
You know,
they're demons, man.
That was an experience, though, that you realize the power. Respect. You realize the power of what you're doing and what can happen in a moment. You have to keep your dream state grounded in reality. When you're hallucinating and stuff, that dream state, if you aren't around the right people, you don't keep it grounded in reality. In the times that I've done it myself, I have done it a couple times alone, and I've always been able to keep myself. I stay home and I stay grounded in reality when I'm doing it alone. I make sure not to ever leave.
That's exactly how it should be. You should have the pre-plan if you're going to do it alone or with people you trust. That's a perfect example of okay, I had a great time at taking 1. I'm going to do 2. Yep. You learned. See?
Those of us that did 2 that night, the next day said, we'll never do 2 again. I've done mescaline 1 time since then. Only once in the last 18 years, 19 years. So
I understand why, yeah.
but I mean, I've done, mushrooms and a little bit of LSD, but as far as mescaline, I've only done it once since then.
See, as much as I know, I know a lot about the fungus, mushrooms, a little bit about LSD, DMT, but mescaline, to the best of my knowledge, it grows in the desert down south.
Yeah.
Or is that peyote? Peyote?
That's really what it is. Yeah,
Is that the
it's
same thing?
mescaline peyote.
Okay.
Yeah.
And that's an ancient medicinal or ceremonial.
And I can see why.
For I believe, which tribe was it?
If you were to use mescaline for true ceremonial, like reaching out to the spirits, that type of stuff, I truly believe you could get what you're trying to get out of it, because that's the power of it. But to use it for negative things and to be dumb kids like we were, don't do it. It's that simple.
And
I look back and I'm
that we're bringing this up because
right.
At least at our age, it's not about fun. It's about getting the absolute,
exactly,
making you a better person.
Well,
Did I finish that about my friend who had, ever since I known him, he had depression.
Finish it.
Well, yeah, like everything failed. Like, and I mean, like, we're talking severe depression. They tried, oh yeah, that's where it was, the electroshock therapy. That's where we got off. Okay. They tried that. They tried everything. And I mean, this has been going on from when I known him since like 6th grade. And we were like, 17. And then this was like in our late 20s. He finally tried it. Tried mushrooms. One time. I think he took a pretty, like, very heavy macro dose. A little above that. Which, anything after 5 grams, they call that a heroic dose. You'd have to prepare for that for weeks.
That's how we should have did that night. We should have been prepared, man. We were not prepared for what went down. Like,
the trial and error of life, especially with, something like that. That's why I hope at least somebody knows to not be so reckless. Because another thing about mescaline is, from what I know, like with mushrooms, 3 to 4 hours later,
yeah,
at the most, you're okay. Mescaline could turn it. It's like a
12.
And that's I've heard higher, bro.
That night that we did 2, it was about 12 hours. We started at 6 at night, and around 6 in the morning we were done.
Probably felt like
but it was definitely, and that's what's really weird about when you're doing that. These things I'm explaining, they're not unfolding in 5 seconds like I'm saying it. It's unfolding, it's minutes. It's it's taking time to unfold. It's crazy. But this comes down to the people you trust, because first of all, somebody that you trust isn't going to run down and first of all startle you alone in a basement and jump in front of a strobe light screaming and doing crazy things to you. That's what triggered that in the first place. So you don't do things like that, and then you don't get these sort of outcomes. Since that night, nobody that I've done any of this stuff with has ever acted out in the sort of ways people did that night. And I've never had any negative type experiences even close to that since that night, which that is one thing I really learned. Do stuff with the right people.
Yeah, there's no way I could ever, with anybody I didn't trust or some random people. Say we were frothing, disc golfing one day, and somebody offers us some mushrooms, whatever. Nah, I'm not doing that.
Remember, though, I had came off my first experience where everybody had scattered. They wanted to go home, and we just laughed the day away, and we just watched the ceiling and the walls melt and turn into all kinds of goofy stuff. That was that first experience. I would never expect it to go that south the second time.
Yeah,
but
I'd say
it
that
did.
Went more than south, bro.
I'm saying though. Well, nobody did end up actually getting hurt though, which is the best part about it. Nobody got hurt.
Yeah, it
was all a bunch of almosts and could have beens, but it didn't happen.
Almost and could have been. It sounded like what's okay. I have been in situations like that before, but not. I mean, that's the wrong way to say it. Like I've done, when you're in that life and you're that young, yeah, I've had my share of crazy experiences, but out of everybody even I know, some of the craziest people I know, that is honestly one of the most crazy, like that could be a perfect example of why you respect it. Like always. Like I'm talking like a public service announcement.
Right. Well, now I prefer to microdose more than anything now. Like if I'm doing it now, it's to get fully medicinal benefits out of it. There's probably a time down the road where I might want to macrodose again, but for now it's definitely on the microdose path.
There's a fine line in between micro and macro,
and
that's what we should probably bring up. I don't even know if they have a special name for it. I guess medium.
Right.
And basically the way I look at it is microdosing is the best way to do it, but the fastest results are from having big experiences from it.
Right.
And I'm not saying it's like that for everyone.
Mm-hmm.
That's how it is for me.
We're all different for sure.
Because everything I've been through, I carry a lot of trauma from many, many things. Every time I do that, that is me releasing.
Right.
And a lot of people would agree. Mike Tyson. If it wasn't for hallucinogenics, look at how he was when we were kids in the 90s. Like he went to prison. You know how they do the pre-fight face-to-face thing? They couldn't even do that with him because he would start swinging on him right there.
Yeah.
And then the security. He was a very, very hurt person in many ways. His comeback story is proof that I'll argue forever I'm a better person today.
I mean, I do get what you're saying. I do know someone that she would prefer to take a macrodose twice a year and get that. She gets like a full-on experience. Like she's really fully spiritual, and it's the whole spiritual thing the couple times, and she takes it very seriously that she's trying to cross over to a spiritual the spiritual side when she does it.
You know what she took, or
just mushrooms. I'm talking about just like fungus, mushrooms.
She go to like the heroic dose level? Because when you're talking about crossing
no, we're
over,
talking like 3.5 grams or so, 4 grams. But it's the type of thing where you're macrodosing to get that benefit, to get more into the spirit world and to feel on that side, because that's what she wants. She believes, a lot in God and crossing over and the other side. So by doing that, she feels that she can cross over and speak to the other side maybe, or, someone that's passed, maybe she could see them again. Things like that. And it seems like she gets something each time she does it. She has a good experience. There is something to it if you put yourself in the right, when you go in knowing what you're trying to do. We went in that night with no plan. Just let's do something crazy. That's why that happens. Now you go in knowing.
Yeah. And what they do is they open up parts of your brain that aren't even really studied.
Right. For sure.
The only reason why people that would never take them is because of false propaganda. You know what I mean? Look at how, look at when we were in high school, how marijuana was. Till today. Now we're surrounded.
Right.
No, like even Canada is like completely recreational.
Not Wisconsin.
Of course not. Did you actually see all those memes? They had a meme thing, dude, and some of them I laughed pretty hard.
Yeah, they're good. Aren't they called memes? Everybody says it different, man. Dude, I'm probably saying it wrong, too.
No, I said it wrong.
Every time I say it wrong, someone makes fun. Every time I say it, someone makes fun of me. I call it a meme. You called it a meme. Every
time I say it, though.
You said meme. I said meme. I don't know what the real saying is, but someone's going to correct us now.
someone I know that is, and she's not mean about it or anything.
Right.
Dude, she's like, how she's not an English teacher is beyond me. I remember, because I was saying it wrong, dude. Like so many times, so finally she had to correct me. Like on it, like.
I have no idea.
It's M-E-M-E.
Someone's gonna correct us.
Mimi. That's funny that you said.
How many experiences have you had total? Do you know? Like if someone were to ask you how many times, like.
That's a really good question, man. If you include the microdosing.
All right, we'll cut out microdosing. How many like full-on macrodosing experiences have you had?
Probably about like 12.
That's actually not bad. It's pretty good.
And
you've had all good experiences, or
that's what. Just that one, and I said the story on the first part of this.
Yeah.
Where my friend, we all left the apartment, but he was like a minute ahead of us.
And he saw the accident?
Yeah.
That's the worst thing that's happened when you've had an experience?
Yeah, something like that, because I can feel what he's going through.
Of course, when you are on hallucinogen, you feel things much different. It's crazy.
You feel... It's actually inexplainable.
It is.
But I
call
definitely using more than what they say, 10% of your brain.
Yeah.
Isn't that what they say?
Yeah, I say it's like a dreamland, but you can feel things more intimately. Like, it's weird. That's the only way I could think to describe
it. Word, though.
It is in a way, because to me, when I'm doing it, the only way I can compare it to is it feels like your brain does when you're dreaming, kind of. That's how I feel.
Oh, yeah.
And you have to learn how to separate the dream from reality. Like, that's...
Not with me, though. With mushrooms, I don't get that. I just... okay. This brings up a beautiful story, man.
Experience story?
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm glad that,
Yeah.
This just kicked in, bro. This is...
Let's do it.
Because, like I said, when having 10 to 12, serious macrodosing experiences...
Yeah.
It's been since I was, like... 17 to 31.
Right, that's about what I've had too. I think I've had 10. So macro, I'm saying.
And I overdid it, man. I was trying to be the big dog, some very rare type of fungus.
The PNV?
It was PNV, but it's even more rare. It had
really?
Like crossed with you know what it was is Oregon purple or something. It's a really, really, really rare. It grows only in the like Seattle, Oregon area.
Crazy.
For like a week. That's it in the whole season.
See, that's one thing about fungus too, is sometimes they only grow such a short time.
Paul Stamets episode on Joe Rogan, who's known as the mushroom expert.
Yep.
That is still today like one of the top 5 Joe Rogan's channels,
for sure,
episodes of all time.
But the experience he had is like out of this world too. Paul, yeah, the cows, and then he went back later, and yeah,
he's only macrodosed I think it's like 2 or 3 times, and the guy's like in his early 70s. After his first experience, climbing up what are those humongous trees? They're the biggest trees that there are. They're in California. But anyway, he took like 25 milligrams.
Yeah.
Or grams of, I forget what kind of mushrooms. Now, 25 grams, what does that make you think?
Redwood trees?
I think so, yeah.
25, that's a lot is what that is. That's a heavy dose. But he might be unlocking stuff that we're not, though.
But I'll tell the story.
Because he actually envisioned, he saw what happened. Like,
I understand why.
He didn't envision the future, but he saw something.
It's very similar
and then
to you, who had such an intense experience that he realized the absolute sheer power of it.
Right.
Because what he did is, I forget what kind of mushrooms they were. It was when he was young. and he's in his early 70s.
Mm.
He took 20 or 25 grams of whatever kind of mushrooms. And when it finally kicked in, he had to climb that tree. And not only any tree, those redwoods that are they're like a skyscraper climbing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
He climbed to the top of one of those, and just as he got to the top, perfect timing for a storm to come in. And not just any storm. And people don't realize that it doesn't really storm too often in California, or maybe that's Southern California. And we're talking like a severe storm, dude. And he's on 25 grams of mushrooms, and he was holding onto the tree for dear life. And every time, the storm just kept getting stronger and stronger, to the point where, I cannot imagine. But, every lightning bolt that would happen, he said he felt it, but he knew he was safe.
Mm.
He was terrified, but he knew he was safe. He literally knew he was part of, Mother Earth, as he explained it. Because I cannot think of a more insane experience, than being on the top. You're 3 stories high, holding on for dear life, dude, in the middle of a really, really bad storm. And he held on the whole time, dude.
That would be nuts.
When the storm came back to normal, the sun came out, just like how you said, when the sun was coming up. He said he gathered his bearings, and then he's like, well, I'm climbing down now,
Right.
I can only imagine. I can see why he doesn't really macrodose, even though he knows he's the one who showed the world that, they created enough scientists, a lot of volunteers. They had to quit counting after 8 million. There's 8 million different types of fungus, mushrooms, in the whole world. And they had to stop at 8 million because the funding ran out, the time ran out, you know what I mean?
That's crazy. So there's way more than what people can even probably wrap your head around.
When you think of
Stuff
a
out.
mushroom,
Yeah. Wow.
what do you think its cousin would be? You know how plant has nothing at all. In fact, they're the so opposite.
What is it
Fungus
then?
Has everything to do with humans and animals.
That's actually what I was going to say next would be what? Animals? Not humans. I was going to say animals.
We have to have a certain amount of fungus in us. How there's good bacteria, there's bad bacteria, there's good cholesterol, there's bad cholesterol.
Right.
Yeah. It's a fun fact,
For sure.
You probably didn't know that. When I first heard it,
No, I never. I didn't think about it like that, no.
That's why I take them, like Alpha Brain.
Mm-hmm.
It's 5 different kinds of, obviously non-psychoactive, but like lion's mane, turkey tail, super healthy, bro. I mean, it's been proven. It's just so good. It helps.
Well, yeah, what's that?
Lion's mane?
Well, I mean, we have coffee that is made with mushrooms. Mushrooms are starting to be part of everything now, yeah.
How does that taste?
It's good. My mom drinks it a lot, too. It's getting popular. It's expensive, though. It's like 12 something.
Every time I come over here, man, you got the matcha.
But yeah, is there any other stories you want to share? Because, I mean, I have done it, a few different times now, but the major ones for me are the 2 in the beginning, and then when I went to Florida and I was able to actually go and pick some, and I had an experience there with friends, not with people I didn't trust. It was a good experience with friends down there with actually, literally freshly picked mushrooms. It was just a unique experience. And then the other one that stands out for me is the one when I left the clinic and I was in withdrawal, and
Did you macrodose?
Yeah, I did. I
Wow, I want to do
macrodosed
that.
LSD the next day to get through that first horrible, the day you leave, the next day isn't so bad because you still have quite a bit of methadone in your system, but it's that following second day that you absolutely hit like absolute hell.
Uh,
That day I macrodosed and it lasted throughout most of the
did it
day. I
help?
watched the wall. Oh, it helped tremendously. I
See,
was
that's
just
what's up,
able to
man.
sit. I was able to sit, watch the wall, and completely get out of my head with everything, all the withdrawals, everything that was going on, and just be for once. Like up to that point, I didn't know how I was gonna get through it at all. So I got through that day with that, and then the next day was still bad, but it's not as bad, and it slowly gets a little bit less and less. But then, of course, pause hit, and it just went all haywire. So then I couldn't manage it anyways. But
I understand that, man.
yeah, those are the few times that stick out to me. Like, are there any times that really stick out to you other than what you've shared?
In fact, you were actually. I don't know if you remember this. I think it was, yeah, during, the lockdowns, everything,
Mm,
You remember we would always go for our walks and then we'd jog up the Civic Center. And just one day we were on a walk and didn't go too heavy with it, but like a gram, gram and a half. I remember I got several people who I haven't talked to in years ended up calling me that day. I just remember, like, even on that when we were going for that walk and everything, like, the sun was perfect. Like, I could feel the sun just
mm,
hitting, because it was like at the beginning of spring, or,
right.
when you're like, you hibernate all winter, you haven't
Yeah.
seen the sun.
Yeah, in Wisconsin, yeah, for
Yeah, we
sure.
do. We
In
hibernate
the
for like
north,
7 months out of the year,
it's
man.
brutal.
To gig it. That's why, the suicide rate up in Alaska and Canada and Siberia, all that is just insanely high. Understandably, I cannot imagine not seeing the
Yeah,
sun
for
for
sure.
like 34 days in one area, and then it's flip flops.
Yeah, and then it's
You get the sun for like 34 days in a row.
that would be tough too. No darkness.
Yeah.
That'd be just hard to adjust.
See, and it's that whole open minded. People don't think about things like that. And ever since, oh yeah, but about that day, I just remember how that not only is it helping my depression, my addiction,
Mm-hmm.
my just general well being.
Right.
Like, and then on top of that, psychedelics have amazing brain health, physical. Like, we're talking repairing irreparable damage that they thought, like
Yeah,
doctors said, like, oh yeah, it doesn't get any better. It's been proven time and time again. It literally helps speed up the process insanely fast of regrowing neurons, regrowing synapses,
well, and
fixing, healing.
I think that's what one of the big things that I notice when I do microdose is you can actually it's hard to explain, but
You can handle things.
the way
You
that
don't
your
sweat the small
mind
stuff,
feels like it opens up though too when you microdose.
especially when you first start.
You
doing it.
truly feel though like you are healing though. Like you've never there's times when I microdose where I just feel and see things in a way that it's like, how can I not see that before?
I couldn't have said it better. You know how passionate I am about it.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, even though, see, this is where I was microdosing, but I didn't do enough research on it.
Yeah.
I was taking like capsules, microdosing, and I would just grind up, just totally freestyling it.
Just like little amounts, you mean, and
No, like I would take a whole thing and just grind it up, kind of like in a grinder, and make it into powder, and then those you can buy like little
yeah,
gelatin,
yeah, mm-hmm.
capsules. They're pretty decent size. and you can open them. I would. There would be some times where I would grind it, but not into dust, and I would just throw like and some very potent mushrooms too. Of like you could still see like long, like parts of the cap.
Jeez.
Trial and error, man.
Oh, man.
Yeah,
True.
there was a few microdoses that were definitely probably pushing way over them. You know what I mean? Like,
Well, that's the thing, though. When you do plan to microdose and you get a little bit overward, you feel it because you get a little hallucination or a little bit too much of something, and you're like, well, that's a little more than I had bargained for here.
exactly. And I learned two things from it.
It's important to weigh your microdoses.
Right. But, that takes so much time, I'm just kidding, dude. That's that, that mentality. Like, when we were so young, like, we're just going to do it. We'll see what happens. Hope for the best.
Well, right, but if you're actually planning and trying for something, then you
That's
gotta...
why I know. I'm just saying that.
Right.
But I really didn't. And I'm glad, because it was one of those things where I didn't plan to microdose. But at that point, I was coming off of a lot of medication, including an antidepressant. When people think of an antidepressant, there's no narcotic. It's not scheduled. I had one of the worst withdrawals you can imagine. I don't know if I should name drop, but
Probably not.
Okay.
Laugh it up, man.
No, it brought back to earlier.
Oh.
It took us a while to get this going today. Let's put it that way.
It was definitely a
To say
laughy
the
morning.
least. Yeah. I was withdrawing from.
Can't get it together, huh?
This actually brings up a really good thing. I'll say it later though, because I'll try to get through this, bro. Going through, it's a perfect example.
Are you gonna make it?
Dude, I hope you're not getting mad, bro.
No, man. You're laughing.
Yeah.
Nothing I can do. I mean, yeah.
All right. Get it together, Justin.
Take 3.
Uh,
Right, like they do. Like take 3, take
Yeah.
4.
what is it with that thing too? Like,
It's just how they start it.
actually, this brings up a study. Do you know there is like 60% of kids who are within the teenage range, they cannot read a clock.
Yeah, I've heard stuff like that.
No, it's true. Like
These-
a
yeah.
watch,
Yeah.
It's that digital new era, because nobody looks at watches, you know what I mean? Look at your phone.
Right.
See, that brings up how the times change. Antidepressant gave me withdrawals like actually almost just as bad as like withdrawing from like a benzodiazepine, which is like Valium, Xanax, everything like that, which are very overprescribed in my opinion. But a simple antidepressant that I had been on for several years, I was getting brain zaps.
Yeah.
And,
I remember you talking about that, yeah.
And it's not like just me. Oh yeah, I was like a rare case. It even says on the thing, like, that is one of the most number one common.
Jeez.
And I'm sorry, they try to say it's not natural or normal, but I don't think having a mild seizure feeling to the point where your teeth chatter is a normal thing.
Might be normal on that medication.
If if you're not the one taking it, it's always somebody that's not affected by it.
Yeah, of course. Medications are nuts.
It disgusts me. But I mean, my vertigo was affected from the withdrawal. It was actually, not only was it the same level as a regular narcotic withdrawal severely, it was almost inexplainable. Think about it. My vertigo, I'm having brain zaps at times. I can't think straight. I remember like I had pain in like my whole body, and I had I was looking everything up, you know what I mean? And you're supposed to literally like wean yourself
Of
down
course, right.
to the point where they even get it to where you take like tablets, like you know how you break open capsules and you like put it in water and like down to the liquid. That's how serious this is.
Crazy.
That is not common knowledge.
Right.
And
Oh, we've said it so many times. There needs to be a lot more education about a lot of stuff. I can't believe how many people I've talked to about that now.
in fact, you remember the DARE program, right?
Yep.
After that, in that the federal government stopped funding it because it was a complete failure.
Yeah, I heard that they call it something else now, but they still do
No,
it.
that's what's really messed up is, do you remember any anti-drug program?
Not other than DARE.
And DARE ended when we were young. Like, I don't even know how young. It's still in elementary school, like maybe middle school at the latest.
Yeah,
And then there's nothing else. There really isn't.
it's crazy. As you go into your teen years, there's nothing. They tell you when you're in like 5th and 6th grade, and then that's
And
going to
that
hold
was-
you over until you're in high school.
And I'm glad that there was, at least they tried a program. But I'm sorry, I remember the DARE program. It's like if someone were to show it today, it'd be like people would think it's a comedy. I remember the police officer had the briefcase, and you know, here it is, dude. He busted out real drugs because he's a cop. He had all of it, and you know what, dude? He's teaching these kids. You know what I mean? I remember, like, basically he was like, well, this is marijuana, and here's heroin, you know, the same thing, you know, that just propaganda,
Yeah.
you know, and it's not everybody's fault because that's what they were taught, you know?
Of course.
And you know what? If that bad propaganda saves somebody from not doing drugs, that is awesome. But I'm sorry, I'm not going to sit here and agree with you that marijuana is the same thing as heroin.
No, I mean, knowing what I know now, though, yeah, any young minds that you can keep from using substance until they're adults, at least.
Hey, I'm all for
Development first. I wish I would have understood that better when I was a kid. Development's got to come first before any sort of using substance.
your brain that develops up until you're 25 even.
Right, and that's the thing. And so starting to use at such a young age, you're just hindering yourself.
And that includes natural things like even like psychedelic mushrooms, medical marijuana,
Anything
which
that's
I'm a huge advocate for.
altering your mind, like.
Yeah, your brain is developing, and it needs as much nourishment, health, vitamins, natural things, not processed food. You know,
Yeah.
it's just it really it breaks my heart, man. It really does. The fact that there's 5-year-olds on Adderall.
Right, like we should be focusing on
I wanna-
nourishing until you're 25, and then
5
maybe
years old?
like.
And have you ever seen the molecule of methamphetamine and Adderall?
No, but someone was on here talking about it a couple episodes
Well,
ago.
if you look it up, you're gonna actually. The first time I seen it,
They're like super close, like one away or something like
dude,
that.
I don't know how to explain it. How
She was
close.
saying they're literally one molecule
I'm trying
apart
to
or something,
find
which
out.
makes it meth. Otherwise,
I'm trying to give like a perfect example of how close.
oh no, I think people can get it just by saying it's one molecule away from.
No,
I mean, it's-
yeah, but some people don't know the molecule.
I understand, but that's
Chemical
still
structure,
saying,
the
like, think about how
biodegradable, you know,
close this
I'm
is.
using
Like,
all
it's
these-
basically the same thing.
You're a
We can
pro,
sit
bro.
and say it's not. Well, I'm saying you can sit and
joking,
say
I
it's
know.
not, but
No, I'm
Because
just
there's
trying
people
to,
that are going to say it's not, of course.
in layman's terms, the best way to break it down is it literally
I know.
shocked me when I seen there is no difference. It's like,
Right, it's the same
okay,
thing.
Mountain
pretty much, yeah.
Dew and what is that generic version? Remember back in the day, Mountain like Thunder.
Mountain Lightning.
Yeah, okay. There was a difference in the taste, but I
Yeah.
bet you if you put a blindfold on the person, they won't even think about it.
Right. Well, they wouldn't probably be able to tell you what's what.
Not
They
at
would
all.
just.
I bet you over 9 times out of 10, like 99 out of 100, they would. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
how close it is. And this is a 5-year-old. And if you look at all those stimulants, and these are Schedule 2, which Schedule 2 means as absolutely as addictive as humanly possible. Schedule 1 is there's no medical value. The government actually makes it illegal.
Yeah.
So think about that. And
Right.
this is, it says ages 5 and up for Adderall.
It's ridiculous. Too young for people to be on it, but they've been starting to give young kids that stuff for since I was in high school, at least.
Were
Probably
you
before that.
diagnosed with the, okay.
No, I actually
we're part
wasn't,
of-
but
our
I never
era
tried.
Is jokingly called Generation RX
Yeah.
because in the early to mid 90s, everybody had ADHD. Oh, from kindergarten to 5th grade, it's really not the most fun thing to do is sit 8 hours a day in a class every single day of the week. Some kids have more energy.
Yeah.
And then do you know how many times like a teacher would be like, well, he wasn't paying attention that day, so let's have a PTA conference and that's how it starts. Or how it did start, especially.
Of course, because that's how they tell you something's wrong, even when there isn't.
In fact,
Just by having an off day.
Yeah, because no kindergarten to 5th grade beyond, it's supposed to have a whole bunch of energy. You know what I mean? Think about that. It's ridiculous. I mean, I could go on all day.
Right.
Because I just remember in elementary school, the school nurse line was as big as the lunch line.
Yeah, we didn't have that at our school, but I had a small school.
Yeah. Small
Is
town.
there anything else you want to add about psychedelics today?
I really like the fact that got you through. You said your methadone withdrawal?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, because when I left, I didn't do it on good terms. I just walked out of treatment because I
Same
was
here.
over with it. So it put me in a bad place, but I got through the beginning with that. But yeah.
Well, I was on 14 milligrams, but I found out a lot more. There's a lot more to it that I should have weaned down differently. I won't even get into it, but
Yeah.
put it this way: the doctor the other day that did my lab work and everything said that don't ever do that again. Stopping 2 of the hardest medications that there are to come off of. What I did was really.
Yeah.
I'm so glad though that mushrooms helped you get through those first. What was it? A couple days.
Just one day, because it was the first day I didn't go to the clinic. I didn't, because you still have methadone in your system.
Yeah.
It was the second day
Okay.
that I used it for that whole day, Well, not the whole day. I
think a
just
lot
did
of
a
it's
dose, and it
placebo.
lasted for the...
Or I mean, when it comes to addiction, I believe it's like 50% mental, 50% physical.
Oh, for sure it
And the
is.
brain is
Because
so
once
powerful.
you are going through addiction, you start to attribute everything to withdrawal. All your pain, everything that you have, it's a withdrawal symptom.
It's your
That's
biggest
like,
fear.
right, that's where you start to get those, like every little thing, and oh, my knee hurts, that's withdrawal. Like, no, it's just a bad knee. Like, you know what I mean, though? Like,
It's really sad how numb
Well, I've actually learned a lot about how methadone actually suppresses your thyroid, and it really suppresses more in your body than what people even realize. So not only emotionally, mentally, there's
in every
other
which
things
way.
in your body, right? Physically too.
But
It has its purposes, and it is needed for the people to get to the next stage.
and especially when we're losing over 300 people every day now to fentanyl.
There was just another spike in Wisconsin here.
How is
A spike warning or whatever for overdose. I can't remember what it's called. It's a spike warning that more overdoses are happening than expected. I just heard it this morning on the radio.
You know, and it's really sad.
But what they're saying though is the reason is because a lot of manufactured fentanyl has now made its way into a lot of different drugs that are circulating.
Oh, that's been going on for a while.
Right, but now it's at the point where it's really in so much that they're seeing spiked overdoses. So now there's a spike warning for it.
We have moved into some dark times compared to when we were kids. That is.
Well, that's what I discussed on episode 13 a little bit, is how these kids are being told to do Perkies and Lean, where we had Dr. Dre, the Chronic 2001. Marijuana was the only thing that we had.
Worst, the Hennessy, yeah.
Well, right, but it was, Chronic 2001, not Perkies and Lean. It was just marijuana back then.
Real good music, too.
Right. Now it's just auto-tune, Perkies and Lean, auto-tune.
And they're literally faded on drugs.
So, yeah.
Themselves. In their, that auto-tune, dude, they crank that.
So you don't know that they're fading out.
Isn't that sad?
It's crazy, dude.
And that is true. It's at least in our era, with rap, the last thing you wanted to be known as is an addict, a drug pusher. Yeah, maybe.
Yeah. Well, right, and now they've glorified it. Like
you're a real G if you got the lean, the perks, the Zans. I can't even listen to it anymore. Molly Percocet.
Yeah.
All of that.
Well, I think Molly was a big thing that started this whole next generation of drugs too, though, that pushed things to the next level too.
Ecstasy had been around.
Well, right, but
Molly.
As soon as people started talking about Molly, though, it just seemed to change a little bit.
Well, see, the problem is the designer drugs. There's so many of these. They're like, they're the same chemical molecule structure.
Yeah.
But you don't know what the hell you're putting in your body. The FDA doesn't know. You don't. It hasn't been tested on guinea pigs.
Right. It's craziness.
And. But this fentanyl thing, and it got so bad that this was a while ago. I heard this. I hope to God this was not an exaggerated rumor, but there was some 14 to 16-year-old kids in California who were smoking a THC cart, and it had fentanyl in it, and 2 or 3 of them lost their life.
That would be crazy. If they're I'm not gonna get into all that right now.
Well, I'm just saying,
right, that's just messed up, man. Bad. We could go down a whole thing about that right now. I think,
but it's the whole thing is just one kid cannot take that pill, man.
Yes, for sure.
Because
I just want people to see. It's just not worth all that. All the side effects, the long-term effects, just don't do it, And
it's pretty hard because we're going up against the music industry, which has, influence over.
Yeah, but they're not educating you. They're putting you in a worse place. They're trying to make you worse off.
That's exactly what I'm saying. And I don't care. I'll say that all day.
For sure, man.
I mean, Future is what would you say, top 5
right now? Probably
for the last 10 years he's been,
because they like that auto-tune beat. So
well, actually, you know what, and I don't think he meant to do it either. Lil Wayne,
Oh, he meant to do it. They all know what they're doing. It's all calculated to be more popular.
I mean,
he's been in the hospital a couple times with lean issues.
Yeah.
He knows what he's doing.
Boosie, he knew he needed to stop, and he went through some nasty withdrawals too.
But yeah, man, anything else today? Kind of got our psychedelic stories out, and definitely it's interesting what goes on, and you have to really pay attention who you're with and do the right things when you're doing it, you know. Don't trust just anybody.
Do it with the best way to explain it, I think, is like a childhood friend.
Well, right, because I've done it multiple times since that night when I was 17, and I haven't had anything even close to that ridiculous happen. There's people haven't showed up and done anything crazy or acted so foolish. So I acted foolish that night too, in a way, but it was stemmed from another action. But I still also something happened to me that night too. So it was just, you know.
Yeah, I think. What I personally think is when you are under the influence of psychedelics is you're trying to rid your body of what's hurting you in life. You know, it brings your brain to such a deep state that it's inexplainable.
That's why you gotta...
You're facing your own demons.
Be focused.
Facing your own, you know, that dark place that we close in our mind. That's a great way to explain it. You know, we bury a lot of things.
Know where you are emotionally when you go in. It'll help your experience.
It's like plan it out for days ahead of time.
Well, right. Plan where you're going to do it, who you're going to do it with, you know, of course, and get yourself in the right emotional place.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, man, thanks for being here. I know that you've been going through some things, but I'm glad that you're still able to come out and have a conversation.
Always, man.
Yeah, for sure.
Especially when it comes to, you know.
Right. So, yeah. And thank you for watching. Please like and subscribe. Stay safe, stay healthy, stay happy, stay humble. Make good choices for yourself and those around you.
Always.